D. Boca Raton, the Health and Wealth Radio Network.
Times are tough, and right now those in the commercial world know that being heard via advertisements is the name of the game. AmpSquare.tv understands how important advertisement is and is proud to express that it's truly the only plugged-in internet television production company on the market. Amp2.tv live streams all their shows across all the major selling markets in the U.S. and abroad. Call them at 866-224-5422. The AmpSquare.tv library allows productions to be seen over and over again, making commercial platforms more usable. Call 866-224-5422. Toll free 866-224-5422. Amp2.tv, the first and only internet television network that's truly plugged in. 866-224-5422. That's AMP2.TV. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. It's Monday night at 9. Time for Sex Talk with Dr. Richard Siegal, a certified sex therapist and sexuality educator. Dr. Siegal is here to answer all your questions about sex and sexuality that you might not have known who to ask. He'll also welcome special guests to talk about a wide variety of topics within the fascinating world of sexuality. So, welcome to Sex Talk.
Good evening. It's Monday night at 9 o'clock. Welcome to Sex Talk. My name is Ricky Siegal, Dr. Richard Siegal, sex therapist, and I'm here as always with my brother Larry Siegal, certified clinical sexologist, certified sexuality educator, and we thank you for joining us.
Yes.
It's our weekly opportunity to talk about our favorite subject. So this is Sex Talk. Write down this number, 888-565-1470. You can call in. We're live on WNNN in Boca Raton, 1470 AM and 95.3 FM. Welcome back, my brother.
Great to be back, as always.
Always great to be here with you. Of course, no shortage of things going on in the news, as always, to focus our sex talk. Tomorrow is the day, the notorious election in Alabama.
We can't let that go by. This is, we've been hearing the phrase watershed moments.
Yeah, there's been a
number of different things. I think this is a big watershed moment. And could I take a moment to be incredibly politically incorrect?
Yeah, do it.
All right. This is going to say a lot for, I think, the way people see Alabama, because tomorrow Alabamans are going to make a choice, a conscious choice.
And this is no referendum on the president.
No, this is nothing to do with it.
Not unless it relates what they have in common.
This is really kind of a cultural thing that people are choosing between a child molester / pedophile and a Democrat.
And which is the
worst.
This
is their
evil.
choice. And you talk about which one is considered the worst choice. It's I'm a little worried.
I'm very, very worried.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was thinking I wanted to share a story just because I know that there are good, loving, caring people in Alabama.
Yes,
and
there are some.
Deep red state has a moral compass. I wanted to tell a story of a dear old friend in Alabama. I will not mention her name because it involves a member of her family who I don't want to out. But Larry and I, of course, being sexuality educators for many years, did a program, one of our favorites. In fact, we need to get back into this. It
really, I'd love to do
used to
that.
be the Friday before Father's Day every year. An original program we're very proud of is called Daddy's Little Girl, the role of fathers in the healthy sexual development of their daughters.
Right. Which I'll just say was a companion program to one that we also did before Mother's Day, which was Just Like Mom.
Well, that was the old classic.
Right.
When your Planned Parenthood days, before I came along, that was an old standby. Mommy and Me, those puberty classes. But this, I was proud of this because this was really carving this out, stating how important it is that men raise sexually healthy young women. So anyway, this dear friend of mine, our friendship was sparked because of how different we were. Me, this kind of New York liberal, and she, this conservative Alabama girl. And she and her ex had two daughters. Our kids were friends from school. And we had this program, and she was excited about it and thought that the girl's dad should come.
Right.
Remember, Larry, we used to meet, different rooms. We had a female therapist meet with the girls. We met with the dads. Wonderful program. Really powerful stuff.
Yeah.
And he heard, we were friends, so he kind of tolerated me, the weirdo that worked for Planned Parenthood. But kind of inside, I'm sure, didn't really like what I represented. But she said, you should go. And he said, over my dead body. I ain't setting foot into that place. And they got into a fight over it. And he said, I'm not walking into a Planned Parenthood. Now, do you remember in those days, that clinic wasn't even an abortion provider?
Right. No,
and
very
of course,
few in Florida actually
this
were.
was an educational program in a conference room, nowhere near the clinic. He wouldn't even set foot into the building because of what we represented. She pushed so strongly, insisted. He begrudgingly came, remember he sat in the back, arms crossed, looked, didn't want to be there.
Everything about him didn't want to be there.
At the end of that program, he shook my hand, hugged me, had a tear in his eye, and told me that I changed his relationship with his daughters forever. That stuck with me. That's why we do that. That's what sexuality education is about, getting past all this nonsense of what we think it is and realizing what's truly at the core. I do want to give a shout out, a huge hug and all the support I can to another dear friend, another Alabaman who I can mention because we've been seeing a good bit of her.
Unfortunately.
My dear friend Deborah Gibson, who is one of the accusers, one of Time Magazine's Persons of the Year. Unbelievable, powerful. The one who maybe soon to be a senator, picked up from her civics class as a 17-year-old senior and openly dated for months. No secrets. She didn't accuse him of any sexual impropriety, past kissing. I don't know too many people that are more good-hearted and honest and rock solid. And
across the board.
To see what she's been going through, the people accusing her of lying and making this up and defending this.
And let's be clear that both Debbie and these other women, nobody came out to accuse him. They were kind of outed by, I think it was the Washington Post journalist.
Whoever broke the story.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think the only reason why... And again, I think there's so much integrity that, it can't even contain it in one room with her, that what is it that she's really saying now?
That he's unfit to sit in that office, that he's a liar. And again, people, how quickly we forget, right? Before, if none of this ever happened with the allegations of sexual impropriety and the stories of him being banned from a mall for preying on teens...
How's that not enough?
The outright homophobia, xenophobia, Islamophobia, the hatred, the racism, the white supremacy. How is it in 2017 this is even a thing in the United States of America? That the Republican Party would rather support this lowlife because it's a valuable seat.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And we won't go into who is his biggest cheerleader and defender at this point, campaigning for him.
Right.
But
But I think the important thing is and this is not even going back in those years, like you were saying. This is really speaking to here and now. The fact that he is lying through his teeth now. And that's really just, the issue that's been brought up. Right. So, it's I'm so sorry that you have to go through all of this.
Debbie, we love you. We support you. We're
very
so proud of your
Absolutely.
strength. And we know that you're strong enough to resist the utter trash and stupidity that people are spewing your way.
Man, and just so much better than that.
Yeah. So, on to happier things.
Yes.
As trainers, as sex therapy supervisors, educators, and faculty of Modern Sex Therapy Institutes, we have been so gifted to see so many bright and talented people come up and train with us. Sometimes new psychotherapists and medical professionals, sometimes rather seasoned and long, firmly established clinicians. going through the ropes, both the educational training and the clinical training and clinical supervision to become sex therapists.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, we've seen a lot of rising stars. And one of our alumni from our New York Institute is going to be calling in shortly. So I'm going to start talking about her now. I couldn't be more proud.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this.
Yes, Brooklyn sex therapist Shamin Ajan recently published this wonderful book. I'll put up an image here if you're watching us on Facebook. Seeking Soulmate. That's the name of her book. And right on time. There she is, looking ravishing as always in front of a beautiful Christmas tree.
Hello.
You can hear us okay?
Can you hear us, Shamin? No, maybe an issue with the sound?
We're in and out. Okay. I guess we'll get her on soon.
Okay. I think
yeah, there she is. Okay. Seeking Soulmate, ditch the dating game and find real connection. What Shamin has done, I thought, is really quite unique in our world. We've been involved in bringing together a number of renowned experts in the field. I'm the pleasure of co-editing a textbook on sex therapy supervision with the brilliant James Wadley from Philadelphia. And of course, there's so many different approaches to psychotherapy that there are so many different approaches to sex therapy.
Mm-hmm.
All roads lead to Rome, as we say, as long as all these approaches are sex positive,
right,
and grounded in sexual health,
mm-hmm, and inclusivity,
a non-pathologizing,
mm-hmm,
non-shaming sort of way.
Right.
So whether folks study, come to it from an attachment kind of perspective, or a more psychoanalytical, Freudian kind of approaches, or cognitive behavioral therapies. What Shamin has uniquely and wonderfully done is integrate her sterling knowledge of cognitive behavioral therapy and mindfulness to kind of take it out of the therapy room into a more practical. The book reads like a friend-to-friend guide to, as the subtitle says, ditching the dating game and finding real connection.
Mm-hmm.
Shamin, you with us?
I am. Can you hear me?
There you are.
Yes.
We got you.
Hello there.
Welcome.
Hi.
We wanted to have you on the show
Hi,
for
Larry.
so long.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Yes.
Oh, our pleasure. I was looking forward to this.
So while we were getting the technical stuff worked out, I've just been plugging the book. It was really such a thrill to be able to preview it before it hit the publisher. I think it's dynamite. And like I told you when I had the chance to review it, maybe you set me up, because I remembered your first description. I wanted to get it right. You said you described the book as, you said, just think of me as your girlfriend who just happens to be a therapist. We were two friends chatting about the dating world, and it's really kind of the way the book read. But as I said, maybe you just put that in my head. But as I started reading the book,
that was my plan all along.
I kind of felt like I was sitting at the table next to the two girlfriends having this conversation, a little bit like I was eavesdropping. But by chapter 3, you just invited me right on over to the table. And I just want to make clear, if people, I think I said something in my review like, this is a perfect book for everyone, except maybe that guy who'd rather have root canal than go to a baby shower or a bridal party. But
it'd be good for him too. We'd have to open him up a little bit, but he'd be able to get into it too by chapter 3, I think.
Sure. Yeah. But I mean, even I have to bust myself. This is not, had you not asked me, this is not the kind of book that I would typically read. And I absolutely adored it. So my first question to you, and of course, Larry, please jump in. Just tell us what sparked this idea of bringing the mindfulness therapy techniques into this kind of casual, really helpful dating advice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it really was not, a grand idea that I had. It really just was born out of my practice. I had really started getting into mindfulness maybe around 2010, 2011, when my husband had decided that he no longer wanted to work in a sales job and wanted to pursue his music career. And as a result, I had to kick it into high gear and really market and incorporate my practice to help provide for my family, to help balance out what he had been doing for many years. And as my practice grew and my interest in mindfulness grew, my clients and I were talking about dating, and it just kind of is one of those topics that comes up naturally, no matter what you're coming into treatment for, whether it's, you're experiencing some kind of depression or anxiety. If you are single, then dating is going to come up at one point or another. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my clients are in their 20s, 30s, and 40s, most of them in that 20s and 30s range, and they were in the thick of it. And it just was timely that I was learning more about mindfulness and incorporating it into my practice, into my own personal practice, and getting supervision from a really great advisor, Donald Fleck, who was really instrumental in my development as a practitioner around mindfulness. Nice. So it grew from there. I had a ton of people who were really interested in how to combine those two worlds of mindfulness and dating. And I created a workshop that was really successful and a lot of fun. We had a dating coach involved. We had a registered dietitian involved. We had a beauty expert involved, and then myself, and we all just talked to this group of participants about different ways of approaching mindfulness in terms of getting yourself ready to date and being whole and comfortable. And I blogged about it, and I was discovered by a wonderful woman who had the power to approach people and see if they were interested in writing a book. And she worked for Parallax Press, which is a mindfulness-based publishing company. And she sent me an email and said, "Hey, do you want to write a book?" And I laughed and laughed and laughed and talked to my husband about it. And he told me, he said, "Write a book." And I said, "Okay, I'm going to write a book." And that's where it came from.
Excellent. Now, the term mindfulness is something that's been coming up, I think, the last couple of years in a number of different contexts. Could you just talk a little bit about what that means and how this concept of mindfulness sort of works in the context of dating?
Sure. So mindfulness has been coming up more frequently. It's not new, but it might be new to you or new to some people. It's been around for thousands of years. It's now becoming more and more kind of on trend. And to me, what mindfulness means is being present and aware of what's happening in the present moment, observing what's happening and doing that in a non-judgmental way. So being able to take in the information of what's happening around you without then judging it. And that, I think, is the key piece.
That is key.
That really comes in handy in any area of your life. But when it comes to dating is, I think, uniquely one of the most universal stressful situations to be put in, right? Sure. You put yourself at risk of being rejected when you're dating. And because of that, it can be very triggering. And if we do not learn to pay attention to our thoughts and our feelings and our responses to whatever it is that's happening in the moment, then we're doomed to be on automatic pilot. We're doomed to be reactive to situations, and we're doomed to replay the same patterns over and then
the same feelings get re-triggered every time the patterns are replayed. I'm glad you made that distinction about the judgment, because I know we've discussed this before in the course of our work together through your training, that there's definitely such a thing as being too mindful in the wrong way, like with sexual problems, with what we would call spectatoring, where someone is so focused in that critical, judgmental way that they're just like in a panic attack. Right. So I like how you talk about it in terms of being able to be mindful in the moment and observe oneself, reserving judgment, and of course being mindful of another as well. That any kind of interaction, not just sexual, is a give and take.
Yeah, and I think it's the basis of intentionality.
Done, right?
Yeah. Say again.
I'm sorry, Larry, I missed you.
Oh no, I was just saying it's also the basis of intentionality, which is an important part of, I think, that dynamic as well. This goes back, and you're right. Mindfulness is nothing new. It's the beginning of transcendental meditation, yoga, tantra. All of that stuff is really based on mindfulness. So it's great to see it being brought in, I think, in this way, and you've done such a great job of connecting it to something that people just don't really connect it to.
And
Thank you.
You'd also mentioned the clientele that you're working with. Earlier, we were being New York snobs and knocking Alabama. Now I'm going to be old and say that the Brooklyn you live in is really kind of a different place than the Brooklyn we know from our childhood. Say a little bit about the application of this kind of I'll say philosophy to millennials and how sex and dating is different for millennials maybe than it has been for old farts like us.
Yeah.
You guys are the old farts, and this is past my bedtime. I love working with millennials. They love therapy. They are ready to go into therapy
Get to talk about
be
themselves.
a part of the process. It's normalized for most of them. They are ready to jump in 100%. And so, they have a little bit of a different experience. My generation, I'm in between you and the millennials. And we had a analog childhood and a digital adulthood.
Right.
And so but we were on the forefront of the whole online dating trend. These millennials, this is all they know. Right? So it's very normalized for them.
Right.
And I think it's great that it's normalized for them because I think 1 in 5 relationships start online at this point. And if you're not doing that, that's not a part of your dating practice, then you're missing out. You really are.
Yeah,
Match.com. Yes, millennials they're open to it. They're ready to, try to incorporate mindfulness into their daily lives in one form or another, and they really take to it.
Nice. One of the things that I've noticed, just with my students, and fortunately, I get to surround myself with young people all the time, being university and college-based, and I can't help but notice a number of shifts. One of those being, again, going back into our day, it used to be that we would want to get to know somebody to see if we wanted to then hook up. And it seems now that's been kind of switched. Now people are kind of hooking up to see if they want to get to know them. So is this dating dynamic, how has that changed just in what you've seen with the people that you've worked with and where you've come from?
Yeah, I think that's true, but I'm not sure if it's true across the board. And I think there's a little bit more pushback happening lately. And there's an understanding. Sex is great, right? Everybody wants to have sex. It's fun. It feels great. But if you jump into sex prior to getting to know the person, then things get clouded. And I'm not saying that that's, there's only one path to a relationship, but in general, in my experience, I do see that it's a little bit more problematic if you are starting off the relationship with that type of intimacy being the lead instead of other types of intimacy, getting to know each other, really connecting. And that's what dating is all about. Dating is about connecting, and jumping straight to sex as your way of connecting, it can be problematic. You confuse, good sexual chemistry with, compatibility. Those things are not the same.
Yeah. We've kind of mourned in previous discussions that it seems just asking someone out on a date nowadays seems to imply an interest in getting physically intimate, and there's almost this like, well, what did you accept the date for? If you don't want to at the end of the day? And that takes us back to an issue we've been talking about a lot with male entitlement and harassment and abuse, this kind of expectation That that's a hearkening back to ridiculously old-fashioned. I took you out. I spent money on you. I bought you dinner. Where's mine?
Right.
Like this is another transactional thing.
Do you see that with millennials? It is as transactional as that may be?
Yeah, I do see it. I don't think it's across the board, and I think I think the difference is a lot of these millennial women have a voice. And we're talking about a certain type of relationship here, man woman right now. But if we're specifically talking about that type of pairing, I think these millennial women are more they're ready to push back.
And be the empowered ones themselves.
Advocate, advocate for themselves. So I think it still exists, and I do find a lot of young women who want to protect their virtue or their gift. I have a lot of women who are religious in some kind of way and want to save themselves for marriage, but question this and do feel pressured, and more times than I'd like to say, end up giving in to that pressure. And it can be very transactional.
Yeah, it's sad to see that there's still a lot of naivete.
You have the power to say no.
Right, right. But I was going to say there's a lot of naivete still, even in the online dating world. I still hear too many stories of creepers, prowling around places like Christian Mingle, looking for really naive women that think they're looking for love, and there's guys just really, again, that same kind of predatory thing, sadly.
Well, but there's also varying ways to be taken advantage of now within this whole world of online dating and smartphones. It's not just, have sex with me. It's, sexting. It's send me a dick pic or send me, a naked pic. And the implications of a dick pic are not the same as the implications of, some woman bearing her body.
Right.
So that pressure to match what, the other person is giving to you.
Okay. If I can just throw in, let's just talk about genital pictures.
Yes.
Yes.
If we can.
Yes. Genital pictures. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes.
No worries.
I'm going to put this up once more for our Facebook viewers. The name of the book is Seeking Soulmate. Our guest tonight, there it is. Is that my copy?
Excellent.
Shaman Ajan from Brooklyn, New York. I've put a link to your practice page on Facebook. I want to encourage all our viewers to pick up this wonderful book. And if you're in Brooklyn and want to find a rising star in the field of sex therapy, please, this is your lady. Thank you so much for joining us. You're so delightful, and it's great to see you.
Thanks for having me, you guys.
Oh, it's a really pleasure.
Best of luck with the book.
Yes, indeed.
And that's our time for this week.
Yeah, once again, flies by.
It does. Join us next Monday, 9 o'clock on WNN for Sex Talk with the Siegal Brothers. And stick around now. Stay tuned for our dear friend, Shiro Rising with Anne Charleuse. Thank you, folks.
Have
a good week.
Good night.